I grew up in Western Springs, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. In fact, John and I wound up at the same high school because he grew up in LaGrange, which was just next door to us. I grew up in a family that was, like most Depression-era people, they really were affected by what happened, and that was my parents. They really focused on hard work and doing well for us and emphasized our education. I was a science nerd and had no inclination at all for the arts, but he made sure that we all appreciated music. So when I got to college, I decided that there was a hole there somewhere, and I knew that. And I took a fine arts course. The only textbook that I kept after college was The History of Art by Janus. It's a famous textbook. When I had a chance after college to go to Europe, I made use of absolutely every museum I could find. I would go to an art museum. But don't ask me about Terre Haute because I got here with 3 kids and no time. And it never occurred to me to come to the Swope Art Museum until years later. We moved to Terre Haute because my husband was a physician who started practicing gastroenterology. I was pleased with the choice from the beginning. It is a very wonderful small city. I like small cities. I can have more things to do in a small city than there are in a large one, because in a large one you're excluded from so many. I mean, I couldn't ever work on the symphony board in Chicago or New York or Miami. I wouldn't be laughed at. And I was able to make a contribution here in a lot of different ways. So I got involved in the Swope because I had met Eileen Prose when we were working together at the Service League of Union Hospital. From the beginning, I met so many nice people, and I realized probably 5 years into my service to the Alliance that 85% of the people that I enjoyed being with were at the Swope. You know, they were all in the arts community somehow or other, and I love every single one of them. And to be honest with you, it's the people who brought me to the art, and it's the people who kept me there. It's not the art I learned to love afterwards, but the people were just like magnets for me, and I'm very grateful to all of them, really. I have long understood how dangerous climate change is and how desperately we need to solve this problem. It's existential, and it has to be solved. We have to work on it. I was very, very upset that we had this beautiful art and we weren't keeping it at proper temperature. Either fix this or we sell everything and go home, lock the doors and leave, because we can't disrespect the art anymore. And then before I had a chance to say that, everybody's standing up and doing this capital campaign, and I was so proud. But I kept pushing the idea that anyone who supports the art has got to want a better HVAC system. And it hasn't slipped my mind that since we improved the HVAC, our bills went down 50%. I mean, so if we can get air conditioning, we can use the 3rd floor for an event center and actually make some money. So for once, so I'm really hoping that we can keep making more money off the capital campaign so that can happen. It would be, number one, a beautiful place for us to have our own meetings and parties, and at no cost, but it would also be an absolutely gorgeous place for weddings and conferences and all sorts of stuff. I am sitting here in front of Phenomenon Near Baber Woods by Paul Jenkins. When I first joined the Alliance, to be honest with you, I walked by most of the pictures saying, oh, that's George Washington. That's a pretty lady in the garden. Look, there's a girl reading a book. You know, I would look at the pictures and I would recognize them as being beautifully painted. But I wasn't quite ready to learn about art. This is the painting that taught me, because it was so unusual and I was drawn to it immediately. And I looked at this painting and I just saw it moving. The paint was just flowing all over the canvas. I couldn't figure out how he did it. And I spent, without reading the didactic ever, I just looked at the painting and tried to figure it out. And that was a good exercise. It really was. And that was a spiritual experience. That was really important to me. And so finally, I got it. I mean, phenomenon is barely an adequate word for how I feel about being in the woods. So the title rings clear, and it is, to me, obviously a landscape. It doesn't look like it, but it's a landscape of the emotions that you feel in the woods. When we first moved into Terre Haute, the very first thing I did, well, maybe I unpacked, but the very second thing I did was buy season tickets to the symphony. And because of my father, I loved classical music, and I talked John into going. He wasn't enthusiastic, but eventually he loved it as much as I do. As soon as my youngest got into school, I joined the Symphony League, and I worked my little head off because it was the 80s, and the symphony was in a lot of trouble then. It was very hard times for them, and I didn't single-handedly get them out of it at all. They managed to, I'm so proud of them, managed to work their way out, and now the symphony is amazing. I spent over 25 years in Service League, and probably 27 or 28. I met Eileen Prose and Francie Such and Patty Toms there. We became very good friends, along with a bunch of others. And when Eileen asked me to come to an Alliance meeting, I didn't tell her, but I didn't want to go. I really had so many other things to do, and I thought, well, I'll just come to a meeting, and I loved it. So I do have to give Eileen credit for getting me in the door, and I've, as I said, met so many wonderful people here, and very much enjoy all of their company. Marilyn Pendergast was a very wonderful person. She must have done amazing things. So I am particularly honored that I'm getting the award named after her. I still don't think I deserve it, but I do promise to keep on working so that I will maybe someday. It's wonderful to get the recognition, and I have to admit I'm a little bit puppy dog about it, waggy tail, and I really understand what tears of joy mean now. It's such an emotional, happy time that just makes you want to cry. So, thank you. My time at the Swope has been, I guess, the luckiest timing anybody's ever had. I walked in at a point where Mary Ann Carroll was saying at every meeting, we have to do something. The generation that's following me is gonna top us by far. They're really talented people. They're already deeply engaged. They understand how important it is. They are talented and dedicated, and I have a feeling that if I can't top the previous winners of the Marilyn Pendergast Award, I certainly won't top the future ones. And I say to all the donors, please keep on giving, because these people are going to need your support, and they're going to give you value for your dollar. So Terre Haute to me is a very special place. I think I don't have that broad of an experience with smaller cities, but I can tell you that I am amazed that a city of this size has both a first-class symphony and a first-class art museum. We were even recognized as one of the 10 best art museums with American art in the United States. We made a museum out of a very generous donation from Sheldon Swope. And although I wasn't in the room, I am convinced that his customers, the women of the wealthy people in town, of all the wealthy people in town, kept saying, we need some cultural things. We need to have an art museum. Why don't we have an art museum and a symphony? Why don't we have anything that is uplifting and community and builds the community? And they're right. This is exactly what Terre Haute has that shines. Let me put it this way. It was the women who founded the Sheldon Swope Art Museum. The Swope means a lot to me, and I know that most of the people in the audience are here for the same reason. But I want you to promise me you'll keep on giving, you'll keep on supporting. Please come to the museum much more often than you do. It's very, very soothing, and it's great in this crazy world we're living in to enjoy the art that you've been supporting all these years. But most of all, may the 4th be with you.